Shalom. This video is remember the Sabbath. And he had to tell us to remember the Sabbath. When I first came across this and I was like, remember the Sabbath, it made me think, why would he tell us to remember the Sabbath? He could have just told us to keep the Sabbath, but he had to say, remember the Sabbath. The reason he said remember is because he knew we would fall away and we would be in captivity and we would forget. We would forget his Shabbats, and all days would be like any other day to us. I'm going to start here in Exodus 20 and I'm going to read 8 through 11. And it says, remember the Sabbath day and keep it Kadash. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is the Shabbat of Yahuah, your Elohim. In it you shall do no work. Neither your son, your daughter, your male servant, your female servant, nor your cattle, nor your stranger who is within your gates. So no one that's within your gates could do any work. You couldn't get a foreigner or stranger to come do something for you because you can't do it. It's the Sabbath. No one within your gates could do any work. For in 6 days Yahuah made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them, and rested the seventh day. Therefore Yahuah Baruch the Shabbat day and Kadashed it. So this is what he did. He set apart that day, and he told his people to remember that day. It's set apart. It's Kadash more than any other day. And now I'm going to go to Jubilees, and I'm going to read this Jubilees chapter 1, and I'm going to read 9 and 10 and verse 14. It says, and many will perish, and they will be taken captive, and will fall into the hands of the enemy, because they have forgotten my ordinance, my commandments, my festivals, my covenant, my Shabbats, my Kadash place, which I've Kadash for myself in their midst, my tabernacles, my sanctuaries, which I've Kadash for myself in the midst of the land, and I should set my name upon it, and it shall dwell there. Verse 10, and they will make to themselves high places, groves, and graven images. He's telling all what they're going to do when they forget, and they will worship each his own graven image, so as to go astray, and they will sacrifice their children to demons and to all the works of the error of their hearts. So here they just going to be doing wickedness. In verse 14, and after this, he's saying after they do all of that, they will return to me from amongst the Gentiles, with all their heart and with all their soul and with all their strength. And I will gather them from amongst the Gentiles, and they will seek me, so that I shall be found of them, when they seek me with all their heart, with all their soul. So here we're seeing that even in the midst of when they're in their captivity, that's when they will seek him. This is a prophecy here, and this is what we're seeing in the last days, now that we're here in the last days. And this is Jubilees 2, and I'm going to read 26 and 28. And verse 26, wherefore do you command the children of Yasharah to observe this day, that they may keep it Kadash, and not to do any work, and not to defile it, for it is Kadash than all other days. So right here we're seeing that the Shabbat is set apart more than any other day. This is the day that he set apart, and whoever profanes it, verse 28, and everyone who observe it shall keep Shabbat therein with all their work will be Kadash and Baruch throughout all the days like unto us. So you see, we're getting a clue here. He's saying like unto us, because there's something going on here, and I'm gonna reveal that later. I'm not gonna jump ahead of myself. This is Isaiah 46. I'm gonna read 8 through 10. And this is what it says. It says, remember this. So here, we're told to remember the Shabbats. And here he's telling us right here, remember this and show yourselves men. Recall to mind, O you transgressors. Remember the former things of old. So we're being told to remember the former things of old, showing us that we will forget. And there's going to come a time when we're going to have to remember. For I am Elohim and there is no other. I am Elohim and there is none like me, declaring the end from the beginning. This is what he did. From the beginning, he declared the end. And from ancient times, things that are not yet done, saying, my counsel shall stand, and I will do all my pleasure. So there is no one that can declare the end from the beginning except the Almighty. And now I'm going to go to Psalms 103:18. It says, to such as keep his covenant and to those that remember his commandments to do them. It goes on to say, you will be set apart. But we should keep his covenant and remember his commandments and do them. And one of the commandments, again, is the Shabbat. We must remember the Shabbat. We should never forget his Shabbats. We should cleave to his Shabbats. The Shabbats, it does something for each person that keeps it. Of course, it keeps them Kadash, but it does something that I will reveal later. I don't want to jump ahead. Okay, this is Second Baruch 2, and I'm going to read verse 30. And it says, for I know that they would not hear me. He's saying right here, he knew that we would not hear him because it's a stiff-necked people. But in the land of their captivities, here we go. In the land of their captivity, they shall remember themselves. So not only, Yahshua lost their identity. And in the midst of that, the Kadash days was lost and they weren't being kept. So he's saying right here, in the land of their captivities, they shall remember themselves. Not only will we remember ourselves, we will remember the covenant and we will remember his Shabbats, and we will turn back to him and we will keep them. And the last scripture here is Malachi 4:4. This is how they end the so-called Old Testament, this Old Covenant, but this is how it ends. It says, remember the law of Moshe my servant, which I commanded unto him in Horeb for all Yasharal with statutes and judgments. So here we are at the end of the prophets, and we're being told to remember the law of Moshe, and the statutes and judgments, because again, a point in time will come when we will fall from it, and then there is a point in time when we come back to it and we will cleave to it. And this is where we at today. There was another thing I can put in here since I have a little more time. The exact day of the Sabbath, of the Shabbat, is Friday sundown to Saturday sundown. Now, there's a lot of people that follow the moon, and according to Jubilees, that was prophesied. Just like he said, he told the end from the beginning. It was prophesied that people would go off, they would stray off, and they would follow the moon. You cannot follow the moon and get a 7-day Sabbath. The people did not look to the moon to find out which day is the Sabbath. It's on the 7th day, and it's always the 7th day. Sunday is the first day of the week. Saturday is the seventh day of the week. And it's a continuous cycle. You always count 6 days, and the seventh is the Sabbath, and it starts over. His holy calendar, his Kadash calendar, does the exact same thing. And you need the moon. The moon, according to the Book of Jubilees, it comes in 10 days too soon. It's not even on a yearly schedule. So how can the moon determine when the Shabbat is? And another point here, the Shabbat does not float on this day and then on that day, and then it's on a Friday. It's the Shabbat. From Thursday sundown to Friday sundown is Shabbat, and then Monday it could be the Shabbat. It cannot do that. Again, it's 6 days, and then the seventh day is the Shabbat. It does not float around. So anybody following any schedule where the Shabbat is floating around all over the place, you're off. You're counting 5 and 6 days, and that's the Shabbat, and then you're counting 8 and 9 days, and that's the Shabbat. It doesn't work that way. You will be off. So I challenge you, you do your research on this. You're going to have to do your research anyway. All the scriptures that I give here, all the information that I go over, the scriptures that I read, you're going to have to do your own research and your own study. And you're going to have to go before him for yourself. Ask him to open your eyes and your ears. If he does not open your eyes and your ears, you will by all means will not see, and you will not hear, and you will not understand, and you will be in a cloud of darkness. Now what does that is sin, and I'm going into another area, and I really don't want to go there, but the reason people can't see some of these simple things is because they're dealing in a form of witchcraft and sin, and their eyes is not open, and their ears, and he got their ears stopped up and their eyes is closed. So you have to make sure that you honor his Shabbats and keep them Kadash, and that will make you Kadash. Shalom.